G'day Flosstube, Anna, aka Mirandaless. It has been a while since my last stitching update. End of August, I think. It's now March 13th. First up, forgive me if I forget to tell you things all that just, I'm so far out of practice it's not funny. Second, as far as where I've been, that's actually part of the reason it's taken me so long to get around to filming this. I'm not entirely sure how to tackle that little question. I think for the large part we're just going to leave it at life happened. To give you a small insight, about 2-3 days after I filmed last, stress got the better of me and the world sort of imploded. It's taken me a long time to get back on an even keel, an even longer time to feel like that even keel wasn't stacked on a precarious stack of books, and an even longer time for some of the enthusiasm for my regular activities to come back. So it is what it is. It's a PSA. If you're like me and you're ignoring all the obvious signs of stress in your life, take my advice. Stop. Listen to all those big flashing warning signs in your life before it implodes, because it's not fun. Beyond that, I have a bucket load of finishes because it's been so long. I have a new start and a finish all in one. I have a smattering of progress. I'm not the least bit sure it's a complete representation of the last 6 months because life happened and I honestly don't know what I was working on in some of that period anymore. So let's start with the finishes. They're part of the reason I wanted to get at least this segment filmed today so that I can put these finishes back where they belong. So as far as fully finished finishes, last time I filmed, I know I was working on Maya's Mermaid. Maya's Mermaid is now a finish. I am not, sorry, normally I would do sort of up close detailed videos of these. I'm not going to do that this time. It's just too much. So this is a Fillipina, Enchantress of the Abyss. She's got acres of beads and bling, as one can see. All the beads I swapped out for Delicas rather than the Mill Hills that were charted. The metallics I swapped out for Treasure Braid instead of the Krynic that was charted. This was my daughter's choice in lieu of the Christmas stocking that her brother and sister got. 28 count under the sea fabrics, but I forget the color name. Sorry, it's one of those details, it's gone. I cut the tag. As far as FFOing this goes, I gave my daughter some instructions on how to mount the finished piece on foam core, but she did the actual mounting. I thought she did a pretty good job of getting it straight. There's a little bit of a fold there. It's not quite tight, but I thought she did a pretty stinking good job. She's 17, so not totally young, but you know, not practiced in this stuff either. And then she decided to take a gift certificate that she'd gotten for our local, kind of the equivalent of Michael's or Joann's, you know, big box store. We call them Spotlight. And she took her Christmas present gift certificate and bought, just make sure the magnets stay, the supplies to FFO it herself. So she went for a more unusual hexagon shaped canvas, and then painted and you can see all the treasures and decorations, a bit of bling through the ground, you know, a bit of seaweed coming up, bubbles. So she finished this all herself, or she FFO'd it all herself. So I thought she did a pretty cool job. And in fact, that is everybody home. So I'm going to quickly finish this little segment with the FFO stuff, and then probably have to come back another day, now that we finally got this program started. The other FFO we have had is my son's stocking. I think this was on its way back to me when I last videoed. Oliver got it plenty of time for Christmas. It was FFO'd by Tia at Calm Creations. I mailed it down there. Oliver picked the fabrics that he wanted, so he chose that kind of rust colored back and a gray binding and the gray on the inside. So this hung with my oldest daughter's Christmas stocking, and a bunch of other stockings on Christmas Day, so he got a few treats in his stocking this year. I think that's it for the FFOs. So I'm going to take a break, and I'll come back and see you in another segment. So, I said I was out of practice. I totally forgot to tell you that Oliver's stocking, that was done on an even weave. I forget the count. It's a Stoney Creek stocking. It's from one of the magazines. No idea which one. It's a Stoney Creek stocking. There's a few there's a few beads anyway called for in the pattern. I just subbed out whatever color I had that I thought was a good match for where they went on the project. And the red round buttons and the gold star buttons, I actually ended up making those myself. I don't think, no, I'm sure I didn't. The original buttons, the red ones, I'm pretty sure the original called for ones had a glitter in them. I just used polymer clay, the red and the gold that I had on hand. So the gold is a metallic sort of gold. I debated on whether or not to put a bit of a wash of glitter over the red buttons, and in the end I decided not to. So again, unfortunately, I'm not going to do a close-up, just in the interest of trying to get something posted for you guys. On Halloween, we had our typical big Halloween do here, but I had previously finished my only Halloween piece, which the last one I did was, those are the other, I think I'll have to insert an image here. My other FFOs was, I call him Jack. I think the pattern is actually Trick or Treat by Lena Lawson. That pattern was alone from Vicky Gable. So I fully finished that, and I fully finished the Nora, Corbett, Electra that I had started in Mania, so that they would be ready to hang on the wall in Halloween. And hopefully I've got an image that I can show you how I fully finished them. The actual pieces are somewhere in the Halloween supply storage, and I'm not going looking for them. So, sorry. Where I started to go with that is because it was Halloween and I finished all my Halloween projects, I wanted to start a new one on Halloween. Great theory, not so great in execution, because Halloween around here is a massive zoo of trying to get everything ready for this big barbecue. For anybody who's interested, I'll put some photos of the night at the end of the video if you want to hang around and watch them. So the theory was I'd start Glendon Place, Sleepy Hollow on Halloween, I think I managed a grand total of about 10 stitches, just enough to literally say I had stitches in fabric before I basically had to go off and do actual work to get ready for the evening. But I have finished it in the months that I've been away. So you will almost never see a video where I start and finish things all in one hit, but there you go. There are a few modifications to this pattern as well. I again, as per usual, changed the Crinix for Treasure Braid. So I went just a bit random and picked my own. It was quasi based off what I thought the original was like, but ended up just picking what I liked basically. So the metallics through the border, metallic in the metal and along there and along his coat. Then the beads as well. I swapped those out for Delicas, and I think one of the colors was kind of an equivalent of what was charted, and the other ones I just picked what I had that I thought looked good. So, oops. So in the end, this is stitched on a fabric called Steely Nights. It's a 32 count, and it's dyed by Number 12 Stitch Company, which is here in Australia. I'm pretty sure it's Queensland even, probably somewhere down near Brisbane. So not very far from me, therefore relatively fast and easy to get a hold of. Assuming she can get the base linen anyway. I think like everybody, there's been a bit of struggles trying to get a hold of linen in the last several months. Seems like that drama has been going on forever. Yes, so one of the other projects that I've been working on a fair bit, I went through a period where basically I didn't have any brain power for stitching whatsoever. And so in the evening I'd come home and I'd pick up my map, because it's just literally needle up, needle down, follow the pattern, no thinking required. I will insert an image of what it's supposed to look like. It's massive. I'm on what? I think I finished 14 pages out of like 168, you know. I'm coming up at 9%. So I will show you what it looks like now. Which is a whole lot of not much, because I just moved the Q snap last week. So you can see a little bit of the new page that I've started working on. But I will insert a picture of what it actually looks like, minus that little page, when I had it out of the Q snap. So that, I'm fairly certain that progress at that project has had at minimum 3-4 pages worth of progress since you guys last saw it, just because there was a long period where it was essentially the only project I worked on, because it just keeps going forever and ever. The other one that has seen quite a bit of progress in the intervening months, something is very sharp out of that bag, and I keep catching my projects on it, which is bound to end badly. See, I told you I was out of practice. That map, that is just on a generic even weave. I think it's 25 count. And that is stitched 2/1 10 stitch. And this is way too big for my board at this stage, so I'm just not even going to try with the board. The other one that's seen a massive amount of progress is my Tinctorium Chatelaine. So it is probably about time I did a close-up on this one, because it's seen such massive progress. I think last time you saw it, I was working on this flower over here. Nope, other side. that flower over there. I was working on flower number 3 anyway. And that I know pretty clearly because when I last filmed, I was very close to getting to finishing that flower. That flower marks the end of part 2 of this pattern. And I'll give you some up closes while I talk. I left for work on a Monday morning and I thought, I'm going to finish part 2. This is going to be awesome. And then the world imploded. And this poor Chatelaine ended up in the corner, unloved, for months because I couldn't stand to look at it. Which is such a shame because it's freaking gorgeous. At some point I picked it up and I thought, no, life is not going to win. At the very least, I'm going to finish that flower. And life does not get a say in this. And once I did that, I finished this flower. Holy buckets! We now have all 8 flowers. I finished all of part 3. And I have just recently come back and started working on part 4, which is these 4 corner medallions are what I've started. And the last border around the outside with the bunch of drying herbs and stuff around the frame. So totally looking forward to those. Most of this is as charted, or at least as far as I know it is. There's a few things to note. I've noticed this a couple of times with Chatelaine patterns. If you're working on the PDF, sometimes the back stitching lines have a tendency to disappear, and it's particularly noticeable on the vertical and horizontal lines. Diagonal ones, not so much. So you can see how at these end flowers, there's like dash, 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 dash. And I was looking at the image on the gallery. What's the name of the Chatelaine gallery? I don't know. And that appeared to be how that person had stitched it as well. So I didn't even question it. When I pulled out part 4, I realized there's actually vertical and horizontal stitches in there. Now some of the back stitching in the flowers, if you zoomed in far enough, those vertical and horizontal lines showed up. I went back and deliberately looked. These ones in part 3 did not just show up, no matter how far you zoomed in. They were only visible in part 4. So it's probably a good thing that that little segment was duplicated in the 2 parts to help you orientate where you fit part 4 in, because it was not there in part 3. So I've got to go back and add 2 more corners worth of those extra lines. I do think it looks better. It fills it out a little bit. I am currently on one of the corners, on the last corner, adding that lacy bit of back stitch around there. Most of these corners they're pretty well finished now. I've got a bit of back stitching inside these 2 borders. There's like a leafy motif, and then there's specialty stitches through the center. And then I think that's it for those corner motifs, and I can move on to the outside. But don't quote me, I forget. So, big full-on view. And maybe I will insert some close-up images of how the actual flowers look, so that you can get a detailed picture of the close flowers, because there's a lot of work in each one of those flowers. Although I was surprised once I started back at this project and really tried to make good progress, they went fairly fast. It was probably about a month to do the last 5 flowers, which I didn't work on it 100% exclusively, but pretty well dedicated to it. I think the only other one, will have to fetch that one. So another one I was working on, you've definitely seen it before, is this Paradise Sampler. And it didn't get a massive amount of work, I don't think, but I pulled this out at various points too, because I've been, let's get the board for this one. I've been focusing on trying to fill in that 1/1 detail. So that I can kind of break the back on how much work is required there. This is actually done 2/1 10 stitch rather than 1/1 full cross as it's charted. I figured I don't need to do 4 times the work. I'm just going to do 2 times the work, and I think it looks just fine. I'm quite happy with how it's come out, so I do not regret my decision at all. I have recently installed Pattern Keeper. I've finally given up and installed Pattern Keeper for the map, which has been a game changer. If you're like me and you're putting it off, dude, go get yourself a trial of Pattern Keeper. It's totally worth the heartache of getting it set up and whatnot. It's life-changing, 100%. And I also imported this little motif just so that I can keep track better where I am on the 1/1. I generally work off paper. I never mark my charts. I just know where I'm up to by looking at what I've stitched. But certainly on the 1/1, it is a little bit easier to keep track if you actually mark it off. So I figured rather than fighting it, I've now got Pattern Keeper, might as well use it. When I finished Maya's Mermaid, those of you who've been watching long enough will realize that's actually the second mermaid I did. First one went to my niece. And then Maya wanted her mermaid, and I thought, well, now 2 of the girls, are mermaid cousins. Well, clearly I have other nieces, and they need to be mermaid cousins too. So we started looking at the other Fillipina mermaids, and which might be a good mermaid for her cousin Mecca. And we picked, I'm not even going to try and say her name, Maiden of, like I said, I'm not going to even try to say her name. But again, Mecca is of Korean heritage, and so this will be, with the dark hair already, a very easy swap to a Korean skin tone, so that she can also be a mermaid cousin. So I started her about a month ago. So all this progress you will see is a month, and it's been a relatively simple stitch, nice big blocks of color. And so I've made relatively good progress. This is a 28 count bit of cashel that I had left over, no doubt, from a Chatelaine that I kitted up. I'm pretty sure I forgot to tell you, all my Chatelaines are 28 count cashel. That one I dyed myself. All the Chatelaine fabrics I've dyed myself. And this fabric I've dyed myself. So we chose a light blue with the purple tones to kind of match with what was originally the chosen fabric, although my fabric is a fair bit lighter than the original one. So you can see mermaid tail. We have a new mermaid on the go. No doubt she will have acres of bling and beads and whatnot by the time she's done. I haven't purchased any of the, I think I purchased the beads. Again, swapping them out for delicas. So I think I've converted the beads. I need to convert the metallics, and I need to buy the Karen water lilies that go with her. But she was kind of an impulsive start, so she wasn't entirely kitted up before we started. My intention had been that after I finished Maya's Mermaid and Sleepy Hollow. Those are two reasonably sized projects. I was good to start a new one, and the intention had been not to start that Mermaid, but instead to start Bellatrix, because I finished Sleepy Hollow and I didn't have a Halloween one then. And she was going to be the addition for next year's Halloween wall, if I got her finished that fast. I have not actually started Bellatrix yet because I started the Mermaid instead. But while I was starting the fabric, or dyeing the fabric for the Mermaid, I also took the opportunity to dye fabric for Bellatrix. So while it is entirely mangled, that doesn't worry me because I'm going to stitch in hand and that's going to get mangled anyway. We do have a lovely, nice gray fabric to put Bellatrix on at some point. Bellatrix is much better kitted. She has all her treasure braid metallics. I believe she's also got her beads. And she has her water lilies because she's the one I intended to start. There's no doubt other projects and whatnot I have worked on in the meantime. But I don't know what they were, and chances are they didn't see a great deal of progress. So we will just catch up on those ones as and when I pull them out again. As far as where to from here, I think I'm going to have to start Bellatrix before too long. Because, you know, she's sitting in front of me, looking at me and saying, "You didn't start me." I'm upset. And, you know, couldn't have it upset with me, could I? So I might have to do that. But as far as filming goes, basically I'm not going to make any promises at this point. I will endeavor not to be gone for quite such an extended stretch. It's actually kind of a pain in the butt to be gone that long. Hard to remember which did. But maybe we'll aim for once a month or something instead of the every other week like we were before. Because we'll just play it by ear and see how it goes. So, I hope you enjoyed seeing what I've done. Thank you for putting up with me and my sudden absence unannounced. Yeah, I look forward to seeing what you've all been up to. I didn't do a great deal of Flosstube watching in the intervening months. I've only kind of just gotten back on that bandwagon, watching all your projects, and it's been nice catching up on what you've all been doing. So, I look forward to seeing you around Flosstube land in the not too distant future. See you guys.
I think you've got it. There you go.
Right, now we're right.
Once
Can you
more
do
with
it?
feeling, Fizz.
Yep. We're right now. We're recording now. Oh! That's good.
Righto. No, he's all right. He's reset. He doesn't need pronging again.
Alright, I could do it, but I can't see him.
Most of the time he's going back by himself.
Just shine your light.
Alright, I'm gonna head back up.
Oh, you want it again?
You going to do it again, Maya, or not?
Okay, last time.
That's a good.